Metafix is a show that teaches you how to think in the metagame. I am not here to give you the answers, nor am I going to tell you how to win. Metafix teaches you how to play in the metagame and how to react around the metagame and what is in the metagame. If you're looking for the answers, try HC Realms, check the forums, they have all kinds of neat toys and tools and teams being brought up, and check the results of a lot of the ROC tournaments or any Worlds tournaments to see how teams played out and what teams were used for. I'm just here to help you think.
Alright, guys. It's the Metal Lab.
No, it's not.
It is a product of the Metal Lab so that I can get my Metafix. Alright. It's a Metafix today. And I gotta call myself out on something. This is one of my biggest weaknesses, and it's an important aspect of being a good player. I actually just recently wrote an article mentioning this on Majestic's, the Apex Insiders website. Sign up now, $3 a month, get you some awesome articles, and some by me. And I guess I gotta kind of talk about being a more patient player. Now, I wouldn't say I'm a completely impatient player. If you want to see at my most patient, it's when I'm actually completely on tilt and I am up against something that I shouldn't be able to beat. So now it's time for me to beat it. That's when you'll catch me being patient. But overall, it's one of my biggest weaknesses. And what I mean by being patient is mapping out your turn. Now, it's not enough to look at an action, plan your action out, and just do it. Consequences are a thing you've got to think about as well. It's one thing to running shot and blast away that Nick Fury, but are they going to counterattack with maybe not the Nick Fury you just blasted away, but his buddy beside him? Is there a character within range that can still blast away at you? Do they have an effect that if you attack that character is going to stop them from dying or blow you up in retaliation? You got to kind of factor these things out, and part of that is taking a step back and taking a second to breathe and look at your turn. What's there? What's going to happen? Now, sometimes people walk right into your trap, and you see it, and you know all the things that are going to happen, and that's when you can have a quick turn. Everything was planned out ahead of time, and they kind of stepped into the places where you go. But sometimes they make a step that you hadn't planned on, and that's when you have to take a pause and take a little bit of time on your turn. Now, there's a difference between taking some time to analyze the turn and outright just stopping everything and being caught flabbergasted. And one of the big differences is that when you stop to actually analyze what's going on, you are looking at the board and interacting with the board. It's a good sign to let your opponent know that you are actually mathing something out and not just stalling out the turn. Staring at the board, it's not really good communication to your opponent, but sometimes you're doing it because you're trying to hide what you're doing. And that, you gotta, body language goes a long way for that. Some people do take turns that are longer than others. And I find I'm more patient with my opponent's turn than my own turn because I know how fast I often am. And it's one of those things, if 45 to 50 minutes is a long time, believe it or not. And if you actually start to think about what you're doing, a lot of the time, even your fastest games, you really get 6 or 7 turns out of a game in the modern 300-point metagame. Now, some games do go longer, but on average, by 6 or 7 turns, you either have a good idea who's going to win, or you're in the toughest fight of your life. Those are the turns, the first couple turns, those are the ones where it kind of goes through a back and forth of what's going to happen, how long do you have, so on and so forth. Another thing, too, is patience also means that sometimes your strategy isn't going to work. And sometimes you got to look at what your opponent has done to your strategy and react to that. A prime example, I played against an opponent in the Windsor Super Qualifier. He built a team that had the White Witch and the Tim Hunter, which means he got both the White Witch's effects. No increasing my stats, and I couldn't take more than one free action with my turn. That was a little obnoxious for a guy who was playing a Zombie Super Skrull. So what I ended up having to do is map out my turns very carefully, look at what I could do and what I was, given the option to do. One of the things I didn't have an option to do was use my free actions to give myself move and attacks, because attacks are free actions as part of that. what I had to do in retaliation instead was position myself and then possibly give myself sidestep at an appropriate occasion with a big blasting attack that is coming out of it. Because I got one free action, but it takes a free action in order to use to give yourself a power. Now, there's a lot of clicks at the Super Scroll that have. Long story short, you have to map it out very carefully and react properly. Eventually, there was a point where he couldn't give a power action to the White Witch because he was trying to make an attack with her, and that's when I was able to explode, pull off a sidestep, and a ranged combat expert to blow some things up and work it to my favor. So, what it comes down to is patience helps form better reactions. Patience helps form better decisions. Patience is something I am currently working on in the game, and though you probably won't see it necessarily in mine and Amber's videos because we play a little bit more off the cuff and a little bit more entertaining, you'll see me in tournaments or in my practice sessions with the guys from the Metal Lab where I'm kind of slowing myself down, not thinking out my turns more and more because it's one of the things that I think I'm lacking the most in. So hopefully my part confession, part informative information session works for you, and it helps you to kind of point out what your weakness is and work around that. And I'm sure patience, in some degree, has a factor in it. So thank you guys for joining me on this week's Metafix. And don't forget, practice makes your team better.
The opinions and thoughts brought to you in Metafix are not meant for the casual game at the table.
Married with Clix is brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com. Check out the new premium site with MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders. Check the link below. Trust me. Trying to remember that from me talking? Not going to help. You'll get awesome articles at $3 a month, with the first month being free, from amazing writers such as Paris Gordon, Easton Brock, Aaron Cantu. I'm even going to be contributing occasionally. And if you're familiar with the Metal Lab, check out some of Mike Payne's articles. So, check it out again, MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders for your look into the minds of some of the greats.